The fire is almost out. Not cold yet, but close. Just enough heat to keep the frost from creeping across the floor. A woman stands at a rough wooden table, wrapped in wool, her breath faint in the air. She presses her thumb into a loaf so dark it's nearly black. It barely moves. She cuts anyway. The knife scrapes against the crust, slow and deliberate. The sound fills the room. This bread was baked weeks ago, maybe longer. It has to last. Her children sit nearby. They eat without speaking, a bite, a chew, a swallow. No crumbs fall. No one asks for more. Outside, the ground is frozen solid. Wheat never grew here. Not in this soil, not in this cold. This bread is rye, and if it fails, the house fails with it. But rye was never meant to be anyone's first choice. Rye was not the dream. Wheat was. Wheat meant white bread, soft crumb, clean hands, higher status. Wheat belonged to lords, monasteries, and good land. But medieval Europe was not kind land. Soils were thin. Forests had only recently been cleared. Stones shattered plow blades. Summers were short. Frost came early. Rain came late, or not at all. Rye didn't care. It pushed roots into sand and clay. It tolerated cold nights and weak sun. It grew where wheat failed again and again. In Scandinavia, the Baltic lands, the forests of Germany, the eastern plains. Farmers noticed something unsettling and comforting at the same time. When everything else died, rye stayed. They didn't celebrate it. They didn't praise its taste. They trusted it. And that trust reshaped medieval life in quiet, permanent ways. Rye fields looked different. The stalks were taller, thinner. They bent in the wind instead of breaking. In spring, rye greened early. In autumn, it held on late. Farmers sowed it with a kind of grim hope. They knew the land wasn't good. They knew the yield wouldn't be beautiful. But rye returned something every year. In villages built on exhausted soil, that mattered more than pride. A bad wheat harvest meant hunger. A bad rye harvest meant desperation, but not immediate death. And because rye grew reliably, people built their routines around it, including how they baked bread. Rye bread was not baked for pleasure. In many medieval villages, ovens were shared. Wood was precious. Firing an oven took planning, cooperation, and fuel most families couldn't spare often. Baking days were rare. When the oven was finally hot, everything went in. Loaves were shaped large and thick, dark flour, dense dough. Sourdough starters passed down through generations. The loaves came out heavy, nearly black, sharp-smelling. Weeks later, they were still edible. Harder, yes, sourer, but alive. People soaked slices in broth, dipped them into ale, let them soften slowly in the mouth. This bread wasn't meant to be enjoyed. It was meant to wait. And waiting changed how bread fit into medieval life. In the Middle Ages, bread told you who someone was. White wheat bread sat on noble tables. It was soft and fleeting, baked often, eaten fresh. It stained nothing. It required refinement and money. Rye bread belonged to everyone else. Peasants, laborers, soldiers, widows, orphans, monks who fasted. It was darker, heavier, slower. It filled the stomach fast and stayed there. A man could work from sunrise to dusk on a few thick slices and a bowl of thin pottage. No one boasted about eating rye. But when hunger crept close, when harvests failed and stores ran low, even the wealthy reached for dark bread. And sometimes, that bread carried something no one could see. Some years, the rye looked wrong. The heads were darker, misshapen. Hard black growths replaced kernels. Farmers noticed, but fear has limits when hunger has no mercy. The grain was harvested anyway. The bread baked from it tasted strange, bitter, sharp. Then the burning began. Hands tingled, feet went numb, fingers blackened. Some people felt fire crawling under their skin. Others saw visions, angels, demons, walls breathing, light pouring from cracks. They called it holy fire, or St. Anthony's fire. They believed it was a punishment, a test, God's will. Churches filled with prayers, monasteries filled with the afflicted. Limbs were lost, entire villages suffered. And still, people ate the bread, because without it, starvation was certain. In the medieval world, famine was not a shock. It was expected. One cold summer, too much rain, a war passing through, a lord's tax taken too early. One failure echoed for years. Rye delayed disaster. It yielded more reliably than wheat. It stored better. It stretched further. When times grew desperate, rye was mixed with peas, beans, or whatever else could be ground into flour. Loaves shrank, darkened, turned bitter. But they were still loaves. As long as bread existed, life continued, barely. And bread was not the only thing rye became. In many regions, rye fed thirst as well as hunger. Barley didn't always grow well. Water was dangerous, often fouled, often deadly. So rye was brewed into ale. Dark, sharp, filling. Everyone drank it. Men, women, children. Not to get drunk, to survive. The same grain moved from field to oven to cup. It shaped the rhythm of the day. A bite of bread, a swallow of ale. Work, rest, sleep. For centuries, rye quietly held medieval life together until people began to believe they no longer needed it. By the later Middle Ages, things shifted. Slowly. Trade expanded. Techniques improved. Some regions stabilized. In better soil, wheat returned. White bread reappeared in towns. Bakers refined flour. Guilds enforced standards. Pale loaves became symbols of order and success. White bread meant stability, God's favor, progress. Rye didn't disappear, but it stepped back. It became the bread of memory, of hunger, of sickness, of times people wanted to forget. And so it faded from admiration, even though it had carried Europe through its hardest centuries. Rye belonged to exhausted land. It bent in the wind, rooted deep, returned after disaster. It matched the people who grew it, persistent, unadorned, durable. Every loaf carried frozen mornings, aching hands, and the quiet knowledge that tomorrow was never promised. Rye didn't offer comfort. It offered continuity. And for most of the Middle Ages, that was enough. Medieval people didn't love rye. They relied on it. It fed them when fields failed, when winters dragged on, when nothing else survived. It was the grain of endurance, not celebration. And maybe that's why it was forgotten. Because remembering rye means remembering how close hunger always was, how thin the line between survival and collapse truly is. But that dark loaf still carries its lesson. When the world becomes uncertain, people always return to the foods that remember how to endure. And rye has been remembering for over 1,000 years.